Yoshi. Hello everybody, Venom here, and welcome to the third episode of the Q&A. So if you're new to the series, welcome. Basically, you can post your questions down in the comments below, and I will make sure to answer them in a future episode. Alright, so today we're going to start with UNSC Infinity, who asks, what was your worst experience ever in your career of game developing? I'd say my worst experience was to have one of my projects being canceled. That is something that happens a lot in the industry, right? Like, a lot of projects get canceled without anyone ever knowing about them. And I'm not going to say like at which company that was, obviously, right? Like, I'm not going to divulge any information about that, but it happened to me more than once. And the first time it happened to me, I actually cried, like legit tears, right? Like, I remember like we got announced that the project was canceled, and I went back home and then closed the door, and then I was like, because, I'm a passionate guy, right? I pour a lot of myself in what I do. And when I do something, I go in hard, right? Like, maybe too much so in the sense that, like, I know that I'm somebody who needs to watch himself because I will work myself to death sometimes, right? And I remember, like, that project was really special to me, and I poured a lot of myself in it. And then when it got canceled, like, it really knocked the sales out of me a bit. And that was really sad, to be honest. And then when it happened again, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Got me once, won't get me twice, motherfucker. I have a heart of stone now. All right, second question. Do you think sprint belongs in Halo? It is a question that is easy to answer, but I feel like it is a highly controversial one. But I'm going to say that yes, it does belong in Halo. The reason why people don't like the modern Halo is not because of the new and improved mechanics. It's probably because things change and they don't like change, or simply that they are not on board with the story and stuff like that, right? Everything needs to evolve, and that is very tricky, right? And you have the same kind of stuff with music, right? For example, I'm a huge fan of Fall Out Boy. I discovered them with their album From Under the Cork Tree back in 2006, I think, back in my emo period. Hell yeah, boys. I was a full-blown emo back then. And obviously, right, it was like pop rock, pop punk, stuff like that. And their latest albums were more pop, right? And I liked them all except the very last one. And people change, stuff change, things evolve, and sometimes they evolve in a way that you just don't like. So you just gotta hang your boots and be like, well, I'm done with that, right? And it doesn't remove anything from Halo, or in the example that I'm using, Fall Out Boy, right? The albums that I like will always be there. Maybe their next album I will like even more, right? Like, it's okay. But yeah, for Halo, the sprint, like, sprinting to me is a way to get from point A to point B fast, which is not something that is inherently bad. It can cut out a lot of the drawn out sections of the game. And also, like, sprinting in FPS is kind of like the norm, right? And everything that goes against the norm can be really bad. So yeah, I do like sprinting in Halo. I really enjoy it because it gets me from point A to point B faster, and I like that. All right, next we got Benji Brown, who asks, what is your favorite Halo game level design wise? I'm blinking out right now. The first thing that popped into my mind was the mission The Covenant in Halo 3, right? However, I think that's more the mission design that I really, really enjoy rather than the level design, because like this mission has it all, right? And obviously the level design supports that, but actually the way the map is built and the pure level design, I would say probably New Alexandria in Halo Reach. From what I remember from that mission, like the 3 different buildings that you need to enter in order to complete your objectives really felt really different and had a lot of verticality. So I'm gonna say that, but I'm probably forgetting a lot of levels, to be honest. What was your favorite place in Undertale level design wise? Now that is very interesting because in an RPG like Undertale, level design is not that important. Like, it's not the type of game that level design has a huge impact on. Of course it has an impact, right? That's not what I'm trying to say, but it's lesser than in an FPS, for sure. I feel like the only answer that I could give is the core, because there are panels and everything. There are some puzzles in the environment that you need to use the level design in order to go through it, because like all the other areas have like a small puzzle and then you can just basically move through corridors and get into fights and then get to your destination, right? The core is the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that requires you to head into some portion of the level, complete a puzzle, then come back. And when you're moving around, you need to step on the right tiles to jump into like the right part of the level, right? So I feel like I have to say the core because it's the only one where the level design actually has a lot of impact on the actual player experience. All right, next we go to Ghost of Online. I noticed you were having a drink during this video. What is your go-to alcoholic beverage? Scotch, my dude, Scotch. And if you want me to be more specific, I'm drinking, that's gonna sound weird in English, I don't know how to say it in English, but Aberlour. And that is a nice fucking Scotch right there, boys. Maybe Aberlour can be my first sponsor ever on the channel, who knows? Hey, contact me, motherfuckers. Let's make money together. I'm sure they're gonna be down with that after that call out. Alright, next we go to Jared Diaz. Has Halo become one of your favorite franchises? Yes, actually. But for reasons that might be different than you guys. Halo is not the type of game that I usually get super into, but honestly, like, sharing it on YouTube, having so many people join me, be present, comment, everything, like, how can it not be special after all that, right? The games I do like, of course, but a lot of them are on the older side, right? So when I started, like, Reach was really good, and then like CE, I remember, was kind of a bit rougher, right? Because it's so old. I played them for the first time in 2020. Like, that's years and decades in some cases after they were first released. And obviously, like, gaming has come a long way since then. So it's hard for me to be like, oh yes, like, CE is so good. Like, I can objectively say that it's good, but I will always have a small distance to it because I waited so long to play it, right? Because I do believe that timing is really important in gaming, right? Like, I'm currently playing Oblivion again. Like, I've played Oblivion for the first time in 2006, I think. I'm still playing it today. I will probably play it until the day I die, which is kind of sad. There's no way if I got into Oblivion today, I would be really into it, right? Like, it's such an old piece of shit right now. But like, I fucking love it. I don't care, right? So a lot of you guys have those goggles for Halo, right? And unfortunately, it's something that I cannot have. However, I've had the privilege of sharing my thoughts and sharing my playthroughs, my first playthroughs with the internet, and you guys have delivered and have made the franchise really, really special to me. All right, next we got the one epic player. Okay, bro. Okay, brag. What are the overall best game development tools, programs you've used for different projects? I really like Unreal Engine 4. It is a remarkable engine. It's really powerful, strong, easy to use. Unity is actually really good too. And the good part about Unity is that it's really good for beginners because you can basically Google any problem that you have, which is kind of handy. All right, and he has a second question. What are some features in certain games that you find impressive on a technical level? I recently played through a level in Titanfall in which you can switch back and forth in the level. That is very impressive to me, both design-wise and technically, because you have to actually plan all that shit and make it work. But on a technical level, the fact that it can pull that off without any loading or stuttering or any like FPS drop, stuff like that, is very impressive to me. Also, I remember, and that is an old one, but back when Kingdom Hearts 2 released, there's a section in this game where you are fighting against 1,000 Heartless. I couldn't believe when I was a young boy how they got that done. And even today, right, when I replayed it not that long ago, I could see how they pulled it off. It's basically like they have like a huge crowd of enemies and they only activate certain AI at some times. And basically all the rest of the crowd is just like low FPS and low resolution, like Heartless moving around. They are picking some of them and making them an AI basically, and that is very impressive. They do something really similar in Kingdom Hearts 3. However, Kingdom Hearts 3 in general is a whole fucking lot less impressive than the other games in the series. So all right, next we go to Star Yoshi 6. What is your favorite game engine to use and why? Unreal and Unity? I kind of just answered that, but the why is that they're the most popular, and if you have a question, if you're stuck, you can probably easily find the answer online. Have you ever used an engine based on BSP, binary space partitioning? Alternative question could be, what engines have you used? BSPs, there's something called BSPs in Unreal. However, I'm not sure if it's binary space partitioning. I have no idea what that is. So I will take the alternative question here. Basically, I've only ever used Unity, Unreal, and Anvil, which is basically the Ubisoft proprietary engine. That is a very hard word to say, by the way. Proprietary? Like, proprietary? Whatever. Have any of the games you've played on this channel inspired your work? You obviously don't have to go in detail since I imagine not much of that work is out yet. That is something that is hard for me to keep track of, to be honest, because I think I mentioned it in a previous Q&A, but I play a lot of games and I, of course, work in games. I watch videos about games. I watch other Let's Players play games. Games are kind of my life. Like I'm just going deep into them. Like I don't care. Like that is my thing, right? Sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of where I have an idea, like where that stems from. But I like to think that anything that I'm doing, either playing, watching other play, creating, or everything that has to do about games will end up giving me ideas, right? So I don't have a specific example. But yes, everything that I do helps me. And also, like, design is a broad topic, right? It's not just about games. Everything that I do in real life, too, affects how I design. Let's say I go shopping, right? And I enter the store and I'm lost. Like, I've told my girlfriends in the past, like, this place is designed like shit. Like, where are we? Like, because design is not just about, like, game design and everything. It's about the experience, like, how somebody interacts with something. A place that has great fucking level design, IKEA. IKEA is amazingly designed. I think there's a couple of videos online about that. IKEA, bruh, that shit's tight. But yeah, some stores are really like poorly managed, like space-wise, and it's kind of awkward. But yeah, everything helps me. Are there any genres of game that you haven't worked before that you really want to try developing? Oh, yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an open world RPG, and Borderlands 3 is an FPS shooter with some RPG components. So I would say those are the main ones that I would have liked to work on. Like a genre of game that I really enjoy are simulation games or like tycoon games, like Game Dev Tycoons, City Skylines and all that stuff. So I would like to try my hand at those. However, like level designers are not usually used that much for them because it's not the type of games that have a lot of levels inside them. It's more about actually creating the assets and everything. But I do feel that I'm technical enough that maybe I could pull it off. Who knows? Do you prefer visual scripting or coding? Which is easier for you to do? I prefer visual scripting a lot because it's more visual. Coding is not that hard. People think it is way harder than it is. If I learn how to code, you can too. I'm not even kidding, guys. I couldn't wrap my head around coding at first, and now I'm one of the most technical level designers at work. And I've consistently been one of the more technical level designers no matter where I worked at. But yeah, visual scripting, of course, is way easier because it's more visual, right? Coding is all about talking to the computer, and the way computers work, they're actually really, really dumb, right? If you tell them to do one thing, they are going to do it forever. Like, they're not going to stop. So it's actually just about logically trying to, every time that you state something, you need to think about how other things could interact with that command that you've just entered. A small example is like, okay, move forward. It's going to move forward forever. It's not going to care about walls, about geometry. It's just going to go, right? So you actually need to be like, okay, move forward only if there's nothing in front of you. How do you detect what's in front of you? Well, you need to do a function for that. All that good stuff, right? And obviously, visual scripting is easier because it's more visual. It's not like a big block of text. It's boxes that you can connect and everything. So it's actually easier. However, like, a game cannot be made entirely out of visual scripting because these boxes need to be coded, right? There's actual code that allows for visual scripting to be a thing. So like, visual scripting is not necessarily good performance-wise, and also you can't build a game from the ground up with it. Have you ever tried a VR game before or worked on one? Do you have any thoughts on the difference between VR game design and standard game design? Yes, I've tried multiple VR games. I've never worked on one myself, though. VR is very interesting because it changes everything. Mission design and level design and game design, everything that is design related, right? As I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is all about the player's experience. And there's no way that players will interact with a game the same way if they have a mouse and keyboard that they would if they're actually inside the environment, right? There's a lot of things that we do in typical games that you can't really pull off in VR that much. The menus need to be different. The way you interact with everything, like, you know, like, the feeling of grabbing something is really important in VR. It feels great. It feels amazing, even though it's a simple gesture. So instead of like having to perform an input, for example, pressing X in order to activate a panel, in VR, you would actually want the player to reach out and press the button because that interaction feels visceral. It feels good. You know, it's tactile. It's like, boom, you pressed it, like, right? You saw your hand move around in the 3D environment and you actually pressed it. That feels amazing. So yeah, like, the way you design VR games is entirely different because you need to take that in mind, right? Like, a simple interaction, like I just mentioned, like a panel. In a normal game, I would probably just want a simple input, right? Press X. You reach the panel, you press X, it's activated, you move on. But in a VR game, why stop there? You know, like, maybe the button that I need to access is behind a glass panel. Now I need to grab the glass panel, open it. Now I need to enter a code sequence in order to make the button be interactive. And then now I can press the panel. You see, like, those actual movements feel very nice in VR, right? But let's say like a normal Halo game, right? Like, if I come up to a panel, I need to press X to open the glass panel, and then I press X again to input the code sequence, and then I press X to actually press the button. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, just press X, activate the button, let's go, baby. We don't need all that fluff, but in VR, we do, because everything, the experience is way more important than expediency. All right, and the final question for today, we go to Starkiller 123 100. Which is it, bruh? 123 or 100? I don't know. In one of your videos, you mentioned you were short. This may be too personal, but what is your height? I'm short, so just curious. All right, bruh, so we got a fellow short king over there. I'm actually 5'6". I don't know if that's considered short necessarily. It's on the shorter side for sure. Never had any issues with it because height is one of those things that a lot of people place a lot of stock on, because like a lot of guys online whine about like, oh, I'm short, so life's hard and everything. No, you have a hard time because you're a fucking dumbass. If you're having a hard time getting with ladies, alright, it's not because you're 5'6" or you're short or whatever. It's because you're either a creep, you do something bad. Like, it's not the height, okay? I never had trouble getting puss, alright? Actually, that's not that true. One girl told me once that if I were taller, we would have already fucked by now, which was really interesting because I was like, "Yeah, you sure about that? Like, I have a say in that, bitch." But yeah, I think that's the only instance that I can think of that I wouldn't have been able to get a woman because of my height. But like people can't fuck other people for a wide array of reasons, right? Like, height is just one of those things that people have a preference on. But yeah, ultimately height really doesn't matter because I'm 31 now, right? And the thing I learned in my 20s is that if you're funny, confident, girls will like you. That's just how it is. That is just how it is. It's that fucking simple, guys. All right, everybody, that was fun. Leave your questions down below and I will make sure to answer them in a future episode of me answering your questions. I hope you like this episode. I have a lot of fun doing these because, you know, YouTube is fun because we have a community and I really have a lot of fun actually, you know, interacting with you guys in a more concrete manner. So yeah, don't forget to leave a like, comment your question down below, subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next episode. Have a good one.